When I first came to Chicago, boy, did I hit the ground running. Thanks to the help of my mother-in-law Patricia, within 3 months of being there, I landed a pretty nice job working downtown for an organization called Prison Fellowship Ministries. During the early half of the year, my job consisted of me being in an office soliciting churches and companies for a program called Angel Tree. The Angel Tree program was a nationally ran program which sought to sponsor the kids of incarcerated parents during Christmas time with toys and clothing. I truly love Prison Fellowship Ministries and their commitment towards helping others, but my individual mission at hand was no easy task at all. I was literally in charge of trying to pair 18,000 kids a year with churches or business sponsors for the entire Illinois region. Yes, 18,000. So my mission became to call or meet with as many pastors or business owners as possible for my area. Over time, this eventually gave me great inside access to a lot of prominent leaders and events going on around Chicago. One year, I was even invited to the governor's prayer breakfast with a few other important figures from the community. The latter half of the year, however, well, let's just say that part of my job wasn't for the faint of heart. In order to sponsor new kids each year and keep our database up to date, we had to go and do some prison time. This is how Prison Fellowship lived up to its name. A team of volunteers and I would spend most of the latter months going into nearly every prison in Illinois. We visited women's prison, minimum security prisons, and the intense atmosphere of maximum security prisons. Man, you want to talk about draining? Day after day, entering and exiting those prison walls was no easy task. You had the slamming of doors, buzzers going off, the attitudes, cells stacked upon cells, and the guards watching your every move with high-powered rifles. Trust me, doing this several times a week for several months was mentally, spiritually, and emotionally draining. Most of our work with the inmate was conducted in big open areas for safety reasons. However, on account of privacy rights, all sessions were still maintained on a one-on-one basis. When I tell you we had to prepare for almost anything, you can't begin to imagine. In the women's prison, I was totally blown away by all the women who were locked up. Some of these young ladies were barely 20 years old. Many of them had kids. Oftentimes they would break down and cry while talking to me. It was really hard to fathom the idea of some of these women being locked up. On the other hand, you had some of the more aggressive female inmates who wanted to share more than information. Some female inmates took the opportunity to give us a piece of their mind. Their outbursts were never towards us, but more so to vent their frustrations, whether those frustrations were pertaining to the prison system or whether those were sexual frustrations. Trust me, we heard it all. To our surprise, one of the young ladies had just had a child in prison just a few weeks prior, which was sort of a mystery being that it was an all-females prison. Then again, everyone on the staff wasn't female. This was just one of many sad situations. To be honest, seeing all those moms and daughters locked up was definitely hard for me. However, I believe of all the situations I faced, the greatest one was when my team and I went into Statesville Correctional Facility in Joliet, Illinois. This was probably one of the most recognized prisons in Illinois. It was probably perhaps the most feared as well. This is where prisoners did hard time. Statesville was an explosive melting pot for most of Illinois' bad boys. It was explosive because you literally had a lot of enemies locked up in the same place, especially the gangs. Upon entering, you could feel the tension as they slammed what seemed to be 10 or 15-foot doors behind you. To enter the prison ward was completely mind-blowing. You had a big open circular area with what I call human kennels running endlessly, one stacked upon the other, 4 tiers high, all with faces staring out at you. Wow. When I tell you Earth has its own version of hell, I believe this was it. Not all inmates participated in the Angel Tree program. Sometimes that was due to not having kids, and other times that was because of behavioral or safety reasons. To sit at the table one-on-one with some of these guys was a bit much. One guy asked me how was McDonald's. I said, the restaurant? He said, yes, I've been locked up since 1971, so I can't remember any of that stuff. It was at this point 2001. I was like, wow, I can't believe it. But of all the moments most memorable to this day, it would have to be the conversation I had with a 19-year-old young man who had recently arrived at Statesville. He sat at the table and literally pleaded with me to get the word out to someone about the way he was being abused in there. This kid was totally frightened and almost falling apart. I was thrown off guard to say the least. I wasn't expecting anything like this to happen. As he continued to share his situation with me, I was left speechless. He said some of the guards at the prison were gang connected. He said he had even seen a few guards flashing gang signs with some of the inmates. He said at night, on a few occasions, guards have let gang members into his cell to beat him up and even rape him. He was warned that if he told anybody, the guards would have him hurt. Man, I couldn't believe it. That was absolutely crazy. It was only my second day there, and I was ready to be set free from all of this. I was already exhausted at this point from talking to the other inmates, but hearing this kid's story took the last bit of energy I had left. On some days, it felt as if I was an inmate counting my time until freedom. During that time, my sister-in-law Pam was a church volunteer for our company. She rode with me to Statesville on that particular day, and I remember she and I got into the car and just sat there for about 30 minutes, almost in tears. When I say you could feel the pull on your spirit from that prison, I am not exaggerating. Being in that atmosphere, hearing and seeing the conditions, was actually exhausting on the body. Thank God we only did prison time 5 months out of the year. Having to deal with all of that on a constant basis would definitely make you age quickly. Even though I had to deal with the strenuous task of going into the prison, I still enjoyed my job at Prison Fellowship. I knew I was making a difference in the lives of 18,000 kids. Yes, I had to say it one more time. I stayed at Prison Fellowship nearly 3 years, but due to it being a non-profit organization, when funding became scarce, so did the job position. As the old saying goes, the last to come is the first to go. It was actually a blessing in disguise leaving when I did, because I left a highly stressful position and landed a pretty nice job at a facility working for the mentally and physically disabled called St. Coletta's. Prison Fellowship was definitely a true course in ministry. It gave me a first-hand opportunity to work directly in the lion's den.